time so they can hear me. They can hear you. Let me get your. Let me get a level from you. Okay. No problem. Take your time. I'm gonna keep you muted, so remind me to unmute you. Where are you? Chat. There we go. Okay. Yeah, no worries. Okay. Hello, everybody. We're gonna do a mic check here in a second. He's finishing up a story. What was I gonna do? Right, he's busy, so I was gonna talk about the intro. So then I'm gonna do something else. So here, make sure that. Oh, I'm gonna tweet it. Right? No, I just did that. Just did that. All right. He's finishing a quest in Final Fantasy 14. Usually he is. Usually. Let's. Okay. No, no. It's about. This is the idea I originally had. Oh, hang on. What is that? What is sampling? What is? Hang on. Properties. Oh, okay. Sample. My God, why is this window so big? What? Yeah, sorry everybody. Yeah, it's being super weird. It must be a routing thing with Go XLR. What on earth? Chat mic. Broadcast stream mic. Yeah, it's not fixed. But I muted it. Okay. There we go. My bad. I think we need. Okay, so let's check this. How so? In what ways? Is it the audio? Because I just fixed it. Yes, oh man, yeah. You're trying to get. You're gonna try to do that, and then you're gonna give me a suck D, and then I'm gonna fall for it. I feel like if I'm distracted and like trying to get stuff working, you could play it every week. Okay, so no, please, you don't need to do that. All right, here's the intro, Mike. So just listen to it first, and then I'll talk about it. You can hear it, right? You can't hear it because it's not going to chat. Wait, hang on. No. Hang on. Oh, let's make sure that's going through the right thing over in Stream Deck. Yeah, man, why did everything reset? I'm very frustrated. Okay.
Well, weren't you having computer problems yesterday?
Yeah, but it was different. Sample there, so then samples, right? Okay. No, I want it to be music. Hang on.
There it is.
You hear it, they hear it. And it doesn't look like there's an echo.
But you guys can hear me now. Hello. It wasn't Final Fantasy 14 this time, I swear. Well, kind of was, because I was writing a story. if y'all had mentioned Goof Troop today, I'm going to lose. Goof Troop would come up in the most underrated SNES games. Absolutely. That would
All
be
right,
wonderful, Jeff. Yes.
Okay, so here's what I was thinking. Like, so it picks up, it goes like, we have this little intro, and then it crescendos, like near the beginning, goes, bum, bum, ba, da, 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 and then you would say, you do your little intro right here, but then after I say I'm a Nintendog, you're like, we're the Nintendogs, I think you should say, hey, and on this episode, we're talking about this, we're going to talk about our favorite Super Nintendo games. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're looking forward to this episode. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live in the chat. We're going to get started here very soon, right after this, and then it stops, and then we can, like, take it from there. Is that something that you would be amenable to, or do you want something different?
What do you mean we're going to start after this? So we not just start?
Well, we start, but we let the music like play out real quick, and then you jump in and you kind of like just change the tone a little bit and say, okay, now here we go.
When do I start talking?
I think you would do the intro, like you would start your normal intro right after that crescendo. So hang on, let me turn off the fade out. So that's okay. So here we go. So. Woof woof. I'm Mike Minotti and I'm a Nintendog. I'm Jeff Grubb and I'm a Nintendog.
Okay,
and we are the Nintendogs. And then Mike starts saying, hello, I'm your host. We're going to talk about this episode. I like people. Some people I don't like. I don't like when video game sites are mean to mobile games. And then you just kind of talk it out.
Yeah.
And then, all right, here we go.
Talk about other sites. All right, yes. I may not. I don't know if I'm going to do like that. We'll be right back, because we'll be right back.
No, don't say we'll be right back. That's a bad phrase. Like, but you just say, and like, here we go, like the, in a Nintendo thing. Okay,
kind of all right, I got this. Yeah,
cool.
We're ready.
All right, I am ready. Is everybody in chat ready?
Guess ready. Don't forget, send super chats if you have questions or you want to. We're going to be asking about your favorite Super Nintendo game today. So if you are in our producers channel and you want to contribute, just send a super chat and we'll get that. Wolf harder. I'll wolf as hard as I want. You can't tell me how to woof. Check the suck tea. Yeah, we forgot to check the suck tea, Jeff.
What's the suck tea?
Suck tea's not singing.
Okay. You know what? Let's bring our beautiful faces up. Hello, everybody. The levels are looking pretty good. I'm a little pretty good. Okay. You're okay, baby. Oh my god. Okay. I just have to hit that. I have to hit record. I'm in OBS. Let me do that.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, I know. It's my Banjo-Kazooie shirt I just got. I'm very excited about it.
I need to get more Nintendo shirts now.
I like it. Okay.
This is dogs related, though. Browns, woof, woof, doggies.
That's true. Yeah, the dog pound, yeah.
That's a great shirt, damn.
Oh, this one, yeah. It's from Fangamer, and as soon as I saw it, I got it. And I got at the same time, because it was so beautiful, a Celeste Mountain hoodie.
You're talking about that.
Yeah, it's gray, and it has like these great colors, and it looks fantastic. And I'm like, I can't wait for it to get cold to wear it. Okay, let's see. I am good. I'm recording. I am.
Got my phone. That's okay. Not a big
dropping
problem.
his phone. That happens. I gotta just hit that, and then I hit the music. Okay, Mike. I'm ready. You good?
I am ready.
5, 4, 3.
Woof woof. I'm Mike Minotti and I am a Nintendog.
I'm Jeff Grubb and I'm a Nintendog.
And we are the last of the Nintendogs. This week we are talking about the Switch Pro from Valve. We are also talking about our favorite Super Nintendo games, and Nintendo's investor relations Twitter is coming at Bloomberg apparently. So we'll take a bit of a look at that. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one this week.
Yep, let's get into it, Mike. I'm excited to talk about all this. You do say Valve's Steam thing. Is that where we're going to start? Switch Pro, because I can't stop thinking about this thing.
We can absolutely start there.
All right. I want this thing, Mike. But what is it?
It's it's what we always thought they were going to make someday. It's basically a Switch, but it's more of a computer, and it has Steam OS, and you can play all your Steam games on there. And it has like, pretty decent hardware, like better than a Switch. Obviously, nothing compared to the new systems, but you'll be able to get pretty much your entire Steam library working on there, maybe to varying degrees of performance. But this is going to be, a great way to play a lot of those games portably. And now that we know Switch Pro isn't happening soon, or maybe even anytime soon, I think this is going to be attractive to a lot of people. They already had pre-orders. You could watch me struggling to get mine during the last games beat the sides live. I finally got one, but not till quarter 2 2022 apparently. So it seems like it's off to a strong start. But again, the question is, does Nintendo care? And it's always hard to tell.
Yeah, I would guess that Nintendo doesn't care too much. I think Valve cared, though. I think they were trying to position this thing against the Switch, knowing that they'd have to look good compared to that. And I think Gabe Newell sort of talked about that in the pricing. So it starts at $400, which is only $50 more than a Switch OLED now. But they were thinking about a higher price just weeks beforehand, according to some people I've talked to. And so and I think
$500 was the price they were thinking about.
Yeah, starting at $500, right? So they dropped it by 100, kind of we're let's just accept that pain. And the reason I think they might have done that is because they might have been expecting a Switch Pro as well, and they were thinking that's going to be $400. So we'll come in at $500, we'll be fine. So at $350, they're like, well, we have to drop the price. We have to be within a certain range of what Nintendo's doing. But I think that's more about positioning and more about making sure that the optics are right for this thing, and not necessarily about winning over Nintendo fans over to the Steam Deck. Instead, it's just making sure that people who already have Steam libraries, at least right now, are going to be feeling good about getting this thing. And I gotta say, I feel very good. The pricing is very competitive. If you get a similar style sort of PC thing, it's way more. It's twice the price. So, but it's an open PC hardware. I think. Last episode, archive.org. I mean, that's coming back.
We're talking about ROMs again already. Okay, I admit, one of the first things I did think about was Dolphin emulator on this thing, because that is going to be amazing. Especially Mario Galaxy 2 is going to run better on this than any other platform almost, because it's going to be portable. It has a gyro sensor on it. It has a touchscreen, all this stuff. So all of those kind of motion control things should work just fine. Right. So, and again, it's if Nintendo would just release Mario Galaxy 2 on the Switch, I would happily play it on there, but they seem to have no interest in doing that. So yeah, I am totally going to put Dolphin on this thing and play some Melee, Metroid Prime, all that good stuff.
Yep, I feel the same way. I guess, to really make this about Nintendo, you asked this to me last week. I want to get your insight once again. Do you think this puts pressure on Nintendo? You said you don't know if Nintendo thinks about this stuff, but do you think just all the talk and the clear excitement for something that it's more expensive and more powerful, does that encourage Nintendo to do a Switch Pro sooner rather than later, or do they just stick to their plans?
Penny is obviously heavily in disagreement with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it should. It absolutely should do that. It's hard to tell Nintendo, especially because you have to really convince Nintendo of Japan, and sometimes they seem hard to convince about things that are happening more so in America, right? Like the Steam Deck thing is probably not. I don't know what kind of attraction it has in Japan. I assume very little, if none at all. So I don't know what they're thinking about it. But you would imagine. They've been able to say for a long time that we don't consider the Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 competition, and to some degree to some degree that's butt kiss. Is that how? Is it butt kiss, bump kiss?
Bump kiss. I think it's butt kiss, but I've never tried to use the word because I'm not sure either. I don't know.
Chat. What's butt kiss? Chat.
It's not 1920 anymore. I don't think anybody knows it. Yeah.
Was that the name of a character in Salute Your Shorts too? That's Donkey Lips.
That's Donkey Lips. I get why you.
I don't know how I got Donkey Lips.
No, there's a similar vibe to it. I see it actually.
Oh, I am so in my 30s. Okay. Yeah. But yes, Nintendo should be worried. I don't know if they will. This is obviously much more direct competition. In a lot of ways, you would imagine. So they have to at least be keeping an eye on it.
I think that it's more direct competition than a lot of people are making it out to be. Now, I get it. It's not in stores. You can't go to Walmart and Best Buy and Amazon.com and get this thing. It's only on Steam right now. But Steam does have 70 million, users or whatever at, registered accounts or something probably a lot more than that since the last time I checked. And the thing is selling very well just on Steam. And sure, this holiday, it's not going to be in stores. By next holiday, I bet you're gonna see these things in stores if they continue with this momentum. And I think by all accounts, looking at it and looking at the tech, looking at the hardware, as long as there's no major like catastrophic issues, I think it will maintain momentum and easily be in stores next holiday.
Right. And while we're not sure about Switch Pro, this thing is probably absolutely going to be getting improvements in iterations.
Oh, yeah.
And in some ways will be easier to just, add improvements to yourself. I know there is something about how even if you get that base model that doesn't have an SSD, maybe you can just put your own in there somehow or something. I'm not super up on that hardware stuff. So, and another thing I want to say is some people get like really upset by the notion when you say it's competition. Just because I'm saying it's going to be competition for Nintendo doesn't mean like, oh, the Switch is done for.
Yes.
Right. But like, or that like it's going to suddenly like see this massive drop in sales. No, but there is something that is much more directly comparable to it from a pretty major company that people are talking about, and it's gaining traction. And I think it's just going to be the first of many. I'm sure Microsoft is absolutely at some point going to make some kind of thing like this. Sony, I don't know how long it's going to be till they do, but Microsoft is going to make one within the next 5 years, probably.
Yeah. It's just Switch has proven this market, has proven that like it's not just that people want handheld gaming, it's that there is a huge audience that wants to buy all of their games to play handheld, and when they do, when they're given that opportunity, they buy a lot more games. Like that, you look at the pie charts for indie games on Switch, and that's borne out time and time again. And so I think it's inevitable that we get a handheld PC gaming space, Valve coming in and like firing the first major shots with really aggressive pricing. It's going, like, they're gonna have a good chance of taking over that space, and that's going to be something I think Nintendo will have to look out for, because it could get to a point where there's just, developers are way more likely to support Steam, years down the line, and then Nintendo is once again in that spot where, oh, okay, people were buying all their games on Switch, even non-Nintendo games, at least for a certain like classic games. Now they're doing it on this other platform, and we don't have support anymore. This is like problems that are years down the road, and it really just means Nintendo needs to maintain its own momentum and keep doing stuff right, and keep like being like doing good by developers and making sure its hardware is easy to develop for. And at a certain point, it does mean iterating on the hardware in a way that is exciting for both players and creators. But we'll get to that when we get to it.
Nintendo can't just rest on its laurels right now. They have to be a bit forward thinking here. They have to start thinking about what's next a little bit. Like obviously, they can't just be like Switch is a super success and it's always going to be, and we don't have to worry about anything.
I gotta go open a Pringles can for my kid. Hang on.
Of course you do. Just kids have been very needy lately. They're in a phase. I don't know anything about kids. I just have a dog who barks at me very loudly sometimes. Well, oh my God. Are you literally barking because I said something mean to you? I don't even have my nice tin whistle here. I have my shitty beginner one, but I still try to play something for you guys on that. How about that?
Right.
Yeah, that's my shitty tin whistle. I need to get the nice one back over here. I had it in my living room. I was practicing in there.
I think we're okay. She's still yelling at me, but I think she just wants to be over here, and she can't do that because she'll hurt herself.
Life's hard, man. Your kid's going. My dog's barking. What is up with everybody?
Yeah, it's something in the air. It's just
something
hot.
In the air. It's transferring between our microphones.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff. So I think that's it on Steam Deck, but kind of in that same category there. Is my dog? Can you hear my dog barking? It's driving me crazy.
Yes. Hang on. Just 1 second. I can fix this. Hang on. I'll just turn on.
I'm gonna yell at my dog real quick.
Okay. If I do.
Hey,
Penny! Oh no, you can't hear him anymore. That's really funny. Hang on. Oh, I messed it up. All right, I think that's good. I'm so sorry you can't hear him. He's being very very stern, but also like trying to reason with the dog, and it's not, it's a dog, so it doesn't know reason. They can't hear you. Hang on. Okay. Chats. And then hang on. I tried to fix it. Hang on. Yeah, I did. I'm trying to fix it. Yeah, hang on. Baby, hang on. You want 12 forever? Oh my God. All right. Hang on. All right. The pity's better, so I'm just going to go back to the other audio. I was going to try to...
Audio settings or anything. She'll get over it.
I was going to try to do those NVIDIA broadcasts on you as well, but it's fine. All right. Hang on.
Jeff, I want to see this kid push you so far that someday you're always the nicest father ever. Someday I'm going to see you snap. Someday I'm going to hear the deep voice come out. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. This is happening. He's going to break out the paddle. That's a paddling. I should have got my nice flute while I was up yelling at Penny. That's the start of the Shrek song. I need to learn the rest of it. I don't know why I started playing it if I don't. Yeah, what is 12 forever? What does Jeff's kid possibly want? I want 12 forever. That must be some little girl thing I don't know about. Jeff, quiet, you just look. We're doing it live. This is as real as it gets, okay? We have dogs. We have kids. Oh, I'll play a D for you. There you go. What? There's the D.
Oh, no.
There's a lower D. There you go. 2 Ds. I've got a handle on the D now.
All right. We're good.
Are we? What's 12 forever? Forever 12, Jeff.
It's a Netflix show about a girl who is turning 12, and she all her friends are like trying to be more mature, but she's like always had this like imagination, and her mom's like expecting her to start like acting like, because she's a single mom, she's expecting her to be like more well behaved, but she still kind of is a kid and gets in messes and stuff like that. And my girls who are 4 and 2, yeah, they're like in the tween shows already. It's a cartoon. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we can get back into it.
I think we're back. All right. Thank you for not stopping watching the show, everybody, by the way. I was thinking the other day, like, that must have gone down. No, it's fine. All right. So talking about hardware and Nintendo, there was a Bloomberg report about how much it's going to cost them to actually make the Nintendo Switch. I think it was the Bloomberg report.
Yes.
Yeah, and they claimed it was only going to be like, what, $10 more to make it, even though they were charging $50 more.
Yeah, they said the parts, like the bill of materials cost, and this is like from analysts and stuff, like examining the parts. They have a pretty good line on this stuff. They said, looking at it, it's going to be about $10 more expensive to make for Nintendo than the original Switch.
And then, so Nintendo actually responded to this, which is pretty rare to them. They did it on their investor relations Twitter account. That said, a news report on July 15th, 2021 claimed that the profit margin of the Nintendo Switch OLED model would increase compared to the Nintendo Switch. To ensure correct understanding among our investors and customers, we want to make clear that the claim is incorrect. Mm-hmm. We also want to clarify that we just announced that Nintendo Switch OLED model will launch in October 2021 and have no plans for launching any other model at this time. There are a couple of things to unpack there. Yeah. First off, the fact that Nintendo felt like they had to come out of this, and if they're coming out of this, it must mean that they can't be lying at this point, right? So it must actually justify that $50 price increase in some way. Do you think it does? I mean,
no.
It's hard to say.
Listen, I think that this is them saying that the profit margins we will report to investors in our earnings report, like when we get to that point, that includes all this stuff. Like, we're not going to say we have huge growing profit margins because of the $50 price increase, because we are going to include the cost of marketing, the cost of not just the bill of materials. We're also going to say, the tooling and setting up new production lines and all this other stuff. And I think that they're going to say, so right now we're not getting great profit margins. But next year, when all that, like when they've already paid for all the tooling and everything, it's going to be like, and now we're getting huge profit margins compared to what we used to have, because this thing's $50 more expensive and only $10 more to produce. I think that this is a wording thing. I think the underlying thing here, though, is much more like the investor side of Nintendo, the side that deals, like the investor relations side, is getting a bit sick of having to deal with Bloomberg stories, and so they're like, hey, let's just poke a little bit of a hole in Bloomberg so we can like maybe hurt their credibility a little bit and say, hey, investors, stop listening to them, only listen to us. Like the price should not go up and down at all based on anything like Bloomberg says. You shouldn't get your hopes up or expect us to report big profit margins because Bloomberg says it. We'll tell you if that's our expectations, and this is just incorrect. And then obviously we have no plans for a new Switch right now, or another new Switch right now is also aimed at Bloomberg. But
well, that one is. I thought it was interesting that people looked at that quote and simply were like, "Oh wow, there will never be a Switch Pro," like as if that's what that means. We have no plans for launching any other model at this time. That could be announced plans. That could mean so many things. Like that does not in any way mean there's not going to be a Switch Pro even next year. So and I saw a lot of people like really clinging onto that quote as some kind of like definitive proof, and I thought that one was weird.
It's definitely a weird one. So we might be losing some frames, everybody. Sorry about that. But it's weird because Nintendo has said that exact phrase before, and then 5 months later we got the Switch Lite. So it's not something that is. They do this all the time, and I think it means exactly what you said. There's no announced public plans for another Switch beyond this one. And again, that is a message for investors saying, hey, we'll tell you when to expect one. Don't build anything like that into your pricing of our stock price right now. Just listen to us, not to Bloomberg. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Okay, let me try to fix this internet. Well, we're having one problem after another here.
What a day!
Yep. What a
day!
It's usually so good. It's been so good recently.
It has been pretty good recently. Maybe 12 Forever. Did you just start Netflix for your kid?
Yeah, but that's fine. There's usually like 2 instances of Netflix going during the show. It's usually not a problem. Let's see. OBS Studio Creative Cloud Desktop, is that called? Adobe Installer. Oh my God. Adobe Installer started going in the background, and it's using a huge amount of bandwidth. All right, let me close Adobe. Let me just do it in here. All right. Network. Oh my God, Adobe, what the fuck?
It was like, hey, let me install stuff for you, take up all your bandwidth.
Yeah.
I don't need permission for that, right?
God, yeah. All right, so I stopped that. Let's see if that fixes anything. Nope, it started up again. All right, I'm gonna have to find it here.
You can't just you can't close it easily, of course.
I closed it in Task Manager, thinking that would be enough, but
Penny chewed the router.
Cancel.
I like that theory.
Cancel. Please just stop.
Jeff's gonna have fun editing this one today.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's see. Give it a second. Yep. And now it's working perfectly again.
Yeah. There you go. Well, at least we know what it was. At least there's an easy fix.
Real quick, mother.
I like to imagine maybe it's Nintendo. Maybe Nintendo hacked in because you're talking so much about ROMs. Yeah,
archive.org. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like
org. I'm sorry. I'm like now I'm like heated, Mike. I'm like frustrated and mad at everything breaking out.
It's been rough. Let's really lay into Nintendo here. Jeff, are Nintendo a bunch of fucking liars?
They're not lying. They're just it is clearly the investor side just saying we can fuck around with Bloomberg right now and mess them up and just like saying we are actually sick of your shit. So we're gonna try to like find ways to sort of deflate like your influence on our investors. I think that's what this was about. I don't think that's a surprise. I've seen like a couple of headlines, several YouTube videos that all use that as like the primary sort of narrative of what happened here is Nintendo destroys Bloomberg. Nintendo goes after Bloomberg.
I was surprised. I was surprised by how many people were being like, wow, yeah, Bloomberg's lost all credibility. And also, there's going to be no Switch Pro ever.
Right.
Now. It's like, okay, that's how you read this.
Yeah, and it's like, again, like, first of all, a lot of those stories about the Switch Pro didn't only come from Bloomberg. There was some Eurogamer in there. Eurogamer's very good at Nintendo stuff because all of the leaks come from Europe from Nintendo. And there are some like insiders that said similar stuff. So it's a weird thing that this is the thing that people are hanging their hats on, saying, well, Nintendo promised never to release another Switch. And it's just not what is happening here.
Nintendo promised to never release it. That's exactly what they're saying. What they're basically just saying, to be clear, we haven't announced the Switch Pro yet. Like, yeah, we know you haven't done that. All right. Hey, it's slightly less irritating news. Reggie, the Reginator, Reggie Fills of Me, is writing an autobiography. Jeff, do you want to read that?
I do actually. Yes, I like. I hope that it's not just a like a memoir. So like memoirs, like if it's just about a certain period in his life, I hope it is like a full autobiography.
I think it is mostly about the Nintendo. You want to hear about the Bigfoot pizza? It's
I want to hear about the Bigfoot pizza.
It to be about everything.
I want to hear about the Bigfoot pizza. I do. I want to hear about his time at the pizza place. I think that there's some fun stuff there, and I want to see how it like relates to Nintendo, and I definitely want to mostly read about Nintendo. You know, to this point, there was a relatively new documentary about Nintendo from the guy that did Video Game the Movie. It came out in February on Crackle, but now it's on Blu-ray and you could buy it and stuff. And I saw the trailer last night, and it was really well done. And I'm like in a mood to like get more Nintendo history and stuff like that. So I'm definitely gonna read this. Absolutely, I'm reading the Iwata book still. That's very good. I want more of that. So yeah.
I'm curious to see if he mentions Mother 3 in it, because I now associate him with that. Because I feel like at some point he had to be like, hey, everyone keeps bugging me about Mother 3. Why can't we just release this over here? And they had to have some reason. I wonder if he's going to talk about that or not. Also, I wonder, like, usually these books are fun because you get dirt. I wonder how much dirt we're going to really get from Reggie about Nintendo, because he still seems to have a good relationship with them and stuff.
Yes.
I'm worried that this is going to just kind of be like fun but fluffy stuff, which, you know,
Sure.
It's about Nintendo, so maybe it should be. But yeah, there's an awful part of me that wants that dirt.
I think there's like some considerations there in that Reggie Fils-Aimé, while a towering figure in among like video gamers and gaming fans, I think he does like realize he's like one of the few Black American executives to ever like become the face of a company in America, and I think he like holds that responsibility like really close to him and takes it like considers it dear, and he's trying to like foster like the next generation of Black American executives. And so I think he would if he were to like come out and say any dirt, he knows that people would use that to reflect it not just on him and on other Black people. So I think he's like I'm going to always be the most professional person in the room, I think is what he's going to kind of treat
I just
this
want
as.
him to like, I want to do something like lay the blame on the Wii U like squarely on Shiggy or something like that. Be like, yeah, that was all Shiggy. Yeah, Shiggy's lost it, guys.
He said no. He says he hates games now.
He says he hates Mother 3 and that he hates the people who likes Mother 3.
Yep, that'd be great.
He says that he's happy that Paper Mario's ruined personally by him. Yes, but we'll probably not. It'll probably just be about the magic of Nintendo and stuff.
Probably.
Hey, Jeff, Pokemon Unite is launching on Nintendo Switch on July 21st. How excited are you for some Pokemon MOBA?
Every time I remember this game exists, I sort of lose my mind a little bit. Like looking at it and realizing they're going to release a free-to-play Pokemon MOBA on Switch and on mobile. It like makes a really like dirty kind of sense. Like, yeah, I get it, but it's like something so filthy about it.
It also seems like it's coming like maybe 2 years too late, small of a time frame as that seems. Right? It feels weird.
It feels like it would be late to do like a Pokemon Auto Chess right now, but so now it feels like we're gonna get the Auto Chess Pokemon game like in 2 years as well.
You are exactly right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try this. I've never played a ton of MOBAs. I played a few. I'm gonna try this. I'll see. I'm not excited though. In fact, I think it's kind of
excited is maybe not the word.
Yeah, like morbidly curious or whatever it is. Morbid curiosity.
It seems like a franchise that should work with the concept. Yes. So yeah, I'm curious. Man, I remember like some of those old E3s when like everybody was making a MOBA. I always think about that Lord of the Rings MOBA game. Because, like, it was fine. It seemed to make a lot of sense, but also it was very cynical. It's kind of dumb, and I think, like, people picked up on that more than anything else. Like, say there's that DC Universe MOBA, right? Like, for a bit, it was like, oh, we can just turn our franchises into MOBAs. Yep. And no, it turns out people are just going to keep playing Dota 2 and League of Legends.
Right, and that, like, phase, like, ended, like, years ago now. So it like, I guess Pokemon is one of the special franchises that can kind of do whatever, whenever, and maybe it'll work. But this does still feel like it's way behind the curve. But we'll try it. We'll talk about it probably when it's we'll talk about it next week because it's coming out tomorrow, right? So we'll try it. Maybe we'll play a game together, Mike.
Oh, yeah, right. Credit cards and prepaid IC cards will no longer be accepted on the 3DS and Wii U eShop starting on January 18th, 2022. Jeff, how upset are you about this?
What the what? So wait, how do you like? What does that mean? What can you pay with? That you can't. That it doesn't accept cash. I don't think. I mean, maybe the Wii U in Japan has a cash deposit thing, but I don't
I
think
imagine
so.
it mostly. Yeah, this is kind of spelling the beginning of the end for these
Right.
shops. Is how you should read this.
Okay. I am a little upset because I guess I had some weird faith in that the retro game situation on Switch would be better than it is presently by now. By the year 2021, I figured we'd have more than just Super Nintendo and NES and some select games, and then a bunch of game collections that come out actually on the Switch cards. And I, I do think it'll keep improving somewhat, but right now I'm like, the only way to play Metroid Fusion like officially on a modern system is to go buy it on the Wii U eShop, and so like that's that. Until they like solve those issues on the Switch, it feels kind of crappy to close this stuff down, and I'm gonna miss it because like there have like Metroid's a recent example, but there are other examples of like, hey, I want to play that game. And people are like, I don't actually do the ROM thing, Jeff, you dirty person. And I'm like, okay, well, if you want to buy it officially, here are your options. And it's almost always Wii U right now. So it's going to be kind of sad to lose that.
Yeah, I agree. It is just it's a little bit of a bummer. It doesn't bother me too much. It's not keeping me up at night, but
right,
it's interesting. And we know these things happen, and I don't think they're going to pull a Sony here and reverse this decision like they did.
They gave us like the Sony thing was like a couple of weeks, right? This is a year. So if you want to buy a game, buy it between now and next year on the Wii U.
Jeff, are you ready for some listener questions?
I definitely am. I want to see what the listeners have to ask us about.
Mm-hmm. So I saw one or two super chats there. If you guys have any more questions you want to bring in, via super chats, please go ahead. But we have a bunch here from our podcast producers, people who are subscribed to your Patreon, I believe, and our good friends. So why don't we get into these? Jake Bogdanoff asks, are there any non-obvious JRPG recommendations for the SNES or Game Boy Advance? Well, for SNES, there's a couple that didn't come to America that you can now play through, ROMs and stuff, and some good translations. Like Live a Live comes to mind. Terranigma, if you're looking for something more like an action RPG. Seventh Saga is one that I've been hearing about a lot more now that I haven't played yet, that people seem to bring up a good bit. I don't know if they're relatively obvious, but the Lufia games are well liked, and there's something that I need to get into. GBA, I'm less sure about there. Man, there must be some better answers. But when I think about GBA JRPGs, I think about the super obvious ones like Golden Sun and stuff like that. But I'm sure there's something there I'm forgetting. Maybe Chet can help out there. Jeff, what are your favorite obscure JRPGs for these systems?
I like Final Fantasy VI, I guess, and Super Mario RPG. I think those are pretty
those are some deep cuts, Jeff.
Yeah, sorry,
you're a very special boy.
Yeah, I'm a special boy, and it's just not my genre. I feel like there is like one that I did play that was kind of obscure, but I'm like struggling to remember it now. So I'll just say Karnoff again.
Yeah,
can't go let episode go by without saying Karnoff. Mm-hmm. It's not an RPG.
No. Nick Turbo asks, was the Switch OLED a mistake? With the announcement of the Steam Deck, can OLED succeed? I mean, OLED's going to succeed. I was surprised just how crazy the kind of Twitter atmosphere was when the pre-orders went live. Like, way more people were jumping in there than I thought. And even I was, like, starting to feel FOMO. Like, I was like, I'm not getting one. And I was like, maybe I should be getting one. I don't know. I think the Switch OLED is still going to do well. I think if they start getting into trouble with the Steam Deck, it's going to be if there is no Switch Pro next holiday season. Then maybe there starts to be a bit of a burn.
Yeah, I don't think it was a mistake. I get why it looks like one right now, but that's just like the Steam Deck hype kind of overshadowing it a little bit. But no, the Switch OLED is going to sell just fine, and it's going to accomplish what Nintendo wants to accomplish, enabling it to keep the price high, creating a little bit more excitement to help get more people buying a Switch that haven't bought one before, and giving people who already have a Switch a reason to upgrade. Even if it's not a great reason, it's still enough because it's just that forced obsolescence at work and the FOMO happening. And I think I've looked at a bunch of polls now of people saying, hey, if you already own a Switch, are you going to upgrade to the Switch OLED? And people are like, look, it's only like 20% saying they're going to upgrade. This is a failure. And I'm like, guys, that's 1 out of every 5 people who own a Switch are going to buy another one. That's like
Yeah.
like 15, 20 million people. That's not a failure. So this thing's gonna do just fine for Nintendo.
Arjun says, certainly I would like to hear both of your takes on the situation today with that tweet refuting the Bloomberg report on profit margins on the Switch OLED. I feel like I have heard people disagree about gaming hardware profit margins for a long time, but I can't ever remember something like this happening before. So we talked about this a bit, but I think that point about like, do you remember something like this happening before? It's kind of interesting, like these heated discussions over how much this, like the new model of a system is going to cost compared to the price we're getting. I think it's happening because the price does seem high for it.
Yeah, I like the one reason this is standing out, the big reason that this is something that people are talking about is this is a price increase, right? Like you said, like it's $50 more, so we are hyper focused on like what's happening here. Is Nintendo taking advantage of its market position? And it absolutely is. And this is Nintendo trying to say, well, just because we're doing that, don't expect us to have huge profits this year. It's just them talking to their investors, really, and also trying to poke at Bloomberg. But in terms of this happening before, the circumstances have just never been this ripe for something like this to happen, where everyone wants to talk about these profit margins. Because usually when something like this happens, it's a disguised price increase where they're like, oh, we're going to release this new model of PlayStation, and it's actually super cheap, like way cheaper for us to produce, but we're going to charge the same price for it, and you don't realize it's actually a price increase because like the models.
This time it's just nakedly a price increase.
Yeah, nakedly a price increase, and that's the big difference here, and that's why people are so kind of focused on it.
Benji Bob says, hypothetically speaking, let's say the Switch Pro flops and Nintendo had to either commit to a handheld or commit to a home console. They can still do their weird stuff, but overall, it's either one or the other. Which direction do you think they go in? In that unlikely series of events, yeah, I think they just go to handheld.
Handheld, right? Yeah.
Like they've had home console flops. Aside from unless you count the Virtual Boy, they have not really had a portable flop. They have always done well in the portable sector. So I think that's absolutely.
And the big part of it is they just they get it, but also that's where people want to play their Nintendo games. There's multiple generations of people now that grew up playing Pokemon on handhelds, and that's like what got them into gaming. And yeah, that stuff's not going to change anytime soon. So they'll be able to continue to dominate handheld, even with stuff like Steam Deck coming along now.
Keywork asks a few questions here. First one, what was Nintendo's best innovation / gimmick over the years? Dual screens, motion controls, Switch stock, NES Zapper, Wii U gamepad, backlit screen, the list goes on and on. I'll tell you what, I liked that 3DS 3D. I thought that was cool as hell. I know a lot of people got over it fast, but man, there were some games I still think about how great that was. Zelda jumps into mind all the time. League Between Worlds, that looks so cool with all this kind of popping up and jumping out of the screen stuff. That was my first E3 too. I remember waiting in the line to try the demos. There were some girls who literally had 3DSs tied to their waist. Yep. We just come over and show you a picture of Mario in 3D while you were waiting. It was so cool. I was so blown away by that. And we still haven't seen too much more of that technology, the whole kind of glassesless 3D thing, because 3D in general has fallen out of favor. But I thought it was neat as hell.
Yeah, I really like the 3D as well. I think that if we were to get serious about this and talk about its best hardware innovation, I think we would probably come down to the analog stick on a controller that you could use with your thumb.
Sure, the right but boring answer.
Yes, the right but boring answer, right. And then if you're talking about software innovations, I think Z targeting was really important. I think they made that really work and made it really popular and showed how to do it right. And there's some other examples, but I think that's probably
shoulder buttons is big.
Ones. Shoulder buttons, right?
That made it that made it feasible to add so many more inputs on a controller.
Right. I mean, the D-pad itself was one of their innovations. They had a patent on that for 20 years. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question from Keywork. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but keeping track of Nintendo's development teams and studios is rough. I agree. If you include partnerships like Bandai Namco, it seems pretty convoluted trying to discern what studios teams are currently working on. Maybe this is too big for a single question, but I thought y'all's experience, you could flesh this out a bit for me. I mean, I agree with you. It's a problem. The thing is, it's a problem for us. It's not really a problem for Nintendo. They know what people are working on, so it is frustrating. They have R&D too. I'm like, who the hell's that? Oh, these are the guys who you find out oh, they made Metroid and they're still around, right? It's confusing.
It is confusing. The thing is like Nintendo has internal studios, absolutely, but they work with a lot of external studios to do their games. Like Bandai Namco is a good example, but they have Mercury Steam working on the new Metroid Dread. So this is something like if you start digging down, like Smash Brothers, mostly made by was that Namco? Yeah, it was Namco, right? And then they have the Zelda games made by like the Zelda Muso games made by Tecmo. Team Ninja's worked with them a lot. Team Ninja made.
There's a period of time where Capcom was making Zelda games, and I'm still like,
exactly.
Like, why did that happen? Like, they were good, but how? Like, Nintendo was like, we don't want to make the Zelda game. Get Capcom to do it. Like, where did that come from?
I think, but if you look at it, that's kind of how it goes across the board. Like Mario and Luigi was an external team, Alpha Dream. Mm-hmm. Eventually, sometimes, especially recently, they've started maybe bringing some of those studios in. The most recent example was that Next Level Games, I think it is the one that did Luigi's Mansion, but that was an external team. They work with a lot of external studios, and then they have like their producers at Nintendo that oversee those projects. Yes, but right, like that's exactly that's what Smash Brothers is. Sakurai is he oversees it all, makes a lot of the decisions, but when it comes down to the actual work of making these games, it is an external studio doing the majority of the work. I think Mario Kart was very similar. So even though most of Mario Kart 8 originally made by an internal team, when they started making extra content and stuff like that and porting it, an external studio handled that. But it is confusing. Maybe it's something we can look into and like make that a topic in the future episodes, like talk about each studio and what they're known for.
Figure out that would make some sense.
Yep.
Sir Drew says, "Happy Tuesday, Jeff, Dash Hound and friends, Grubb, and Mike Chihuahua Adi." Chihuahua Adi. I'm sure it's been asked before on the Games Beat Decides podcast, but let's keep the Castlevania Castlevania Advanced Collection hype going. Buy one game, rent one game. One game is a miserable pile of secrets. Castlevania Circle of the Moon, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. I would buy Aria of Sorrow. I would rent Circle of the Moon, and so I don't know what I want to replay all these again so badly.
Yes, that's what I'm doing
Harmony
right now.
of Dissonance is the one that I think I liked the least.
Same.
There was something about it. I remember it was kind of a dingy looking game, wasn't it? So that would be my miserable pile of secrets. But I really want to play all three of them again.
Yeah, I think that's what it was for me. Is that I think I disliked Harmony of Dissonance the most out of those three, although I still generally liked it. But I'll buy Circle of the Moon just because it was it really got me at that time. I hadn't really played many other Metroidvanias other than, I guess that doesn't make sense, but I hadn't played Symphony of the Night when I played Circle of the Moon. So I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. It's like another new franchise I'm in love with. And then Aria of Sorrow is just a very, very solid and good game, and probably objectively maybe a little bit better than Circle of the Moon, but it's just, personally, I would rent that one. And then yes, I would let Harmony of Dissonance be a miserable pile of secrets, but I am replaying these right now, and we'll see if my opinion changes. If that happens, I'll let everybody know.
Then Giggy asks here, what is your favorite Super Nintendo original soundtrack? I know it's basic, but it's hard to top Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. Yeah, those are very right answers. Final Fantasy VI might be my number one choice. I know I was talking about Donkey Kong Country 2. That is up there now. That is just a fantastic sound. The first one too has an incredible soundtrack. And then Mega Man X also just really, really, really good music. But those seem to be the top tiers for me. I mean, like Mario World and Link to the Past have very good soundtracks too, but they're not even close to being the best in those franchises for me, I think. Yeah. So I want to put them in the tippity top tier. F-Zero, very, very good. Not a ton of tracks there. They're just weird random things like Top Gear. Why is that game's soundtrack so good? I don't know, but it's fantastic. But I think Final Fantasy VI is probably the correct top choice. It's just a huge soundtrack that's expansive, incredible, emotional. Yeah, that is excellent work. What about you, Jeff?
You mentioned a lot, so I'll just say two real quick, and I'll reiterate. Donkey Kong Country is one I actually still listen to almost every week. That entire franchise, but all those games. And then Super Metroid is one you didn't mention that I think has a great soundtrack from Super Nintendo. Like from the NES, the NES game also sounds good, but the Super Metroid soundtrack and the way that they were using sounded a lot different than a lot of the other games, and yet still very melodic and beautiful and awesome and moody and everything. It's great.
Yes, I do think you are right there. Okay, Jeff, do we have a few super chats to go through here?
Yes, we do. And my browser freaked out, so I had to go to Stream Elements, but I had time to do that, so I'll do that right now. Let's see here. Let's start with Ryan, who asks the other big question, other than SteamWorld Dig 2 versus Hollow Knight, N64 or GameCube?
Why don't we let's end that Pokemon Unite poll?
Yeah,
which
you're right.
you asked, is Pokemon Unite a work of darkness? With 75% saying yes, so we can end that one there. Why don't we do a new poll here? Let's ask people on Nintendo 64 or GameCube. I think we are both GameCube boys. I think you like the 64 more than I do.
I definitely like it more than you. Yes,
I am very heavily a GameCube boy. GameCube is one of my favorite systems ever, and for me, we kind of talked about this with the Nintendo versus the SNES, where I feel like most of those games just have better versions on SNES. I don't think too many people would agree with me on this, but most of the big Nintendo 64 games have better versions on GameCube for me, with the exception probably of Mario 64. Sunshine's not as good as Mario 64, but I like Wind Waker more than I like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Smash Bros. Melee is much better than the original Smash Brothers. The other point I'll give to Nintendo 64 is Star Fox 64. That game's great, and the GameCube versions weren't as good. But then GameCube has all this like really cool, unique stuff like Pikmin, Metroid Prime, much better third party support. Really, the other problem for me is that I am not a giant fan of the Rare games. I like some of them a good bit. I like Banjo-Kazooie, obviously, but then other things like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, not really for me. Conker's Bad Fur Day never did too much for me. So yeah, a GameCube for me.
Here's the thing with the poll. I think our generation, probably would skew a little bit towards GameCube. Yes, and I think that people who grew up through both of those probably would prefer the GameCube. But if you go back, if you're younger than that and you go back, the GameCube super duper holds up. You can go back today to most of those games, play them right now, and many of them could end up as some of your favorite games of all time, like really easily. And 64 is a lot harder to go back to. So when I look at the poll and I see it's like 2-1 for GameCube right now, that's like the least surprising thing to me.
Yeah, because I think I've seen that before with some people online, and I know it's like it is people just a little bit older than us are just like, yeah, the GameCube was bad. And like that's baffling to me, but I guess from that point of view, it's just a little bit different.
No, I generally agree with everything you said. My kid knocked down the fence that keeps her out of here a second ago, so I had to deal with her a little bit. But in the Nintendo 64's defense, there are a lot of really like interesting 3D games on there, like in the early days of 3D.
Sure. And I love that kind of pioneer era. And I don't think there's not a more important game than Mario 64 on the GameCube. I'll say that.
Exactly. And people were trying stuff, and a lot of the stuff worked. I think like Star Fox 64 was like, oh wow, okay, this is really cool. This like it's basically Star Fox, but when you actually get real 3D capabilities in here, here's what it can really be like. And F-Zero 64 was really good. I think just kind of like taking a lot of the Super Nintendo ideas and making them work. But a lot of the best
had
stuff.
Weird games like Buck Bumble.
Buck Bumble is one I keep
Harvest,
thinking of too right now too.
Yeah, like Buck. Like of course we could just make a game like Buck Bumble where you're just flying constantly, and it's kind of a platformer, but kind of a shooter. Turns out it didn't really work, but we didn't know. Seems like a good idea.
Yeah, like Blast Corps, you like put that game in, you're like, what even is this going to be? And you play it, you're like, this is just a wild thing where you're just running cars and stuff, trying to like create a clear path, destroy buildings, and everything. It like controls pretty weird, but like at the time, it's like they're still trying to figure this stuff out, and it's cool that we got all these experimental ideas. And I still really like the N64. I like it now. I liked it then, but I do prefer the GameCube. It's just the best games on each. Like the best games on N64 were better on GameCube, and it's hard to like argue against that.
It's such a pretty console too.
I gotta deal with this kid. I'll be right back.
All right, you deal with the kid. That's good because Penny is barking. Let's see. I'll get another song here maybe for you guys. I got a little Chrono Cross for you. How about that? A little bit of Chrono Cross. I feel bad I don't like GoldenEye. Maybe I need to finally play it again. I never really played the campaign very much. I only ever played multiplayer, and maybe like I just thought it was like those maps are so big to me, and it just felt like I was just running around looking for people most of the time. But people loved GoldenEye split screen multiplayer in a way that I just didn't. But I don't know. Maybe I have to pop GoldenEye again.
All right,
Perfect Dark just seemed like it was trying way too hard to even work on the Nintendo 64. I appreciate its ambition, but man, I don't know.
All right, where am I at? Let's see here. Okay. Ryan, thank you for that. We'll check in on the poll again in a second. From Nick Turbo, does XCOM Legends look like shit?
Oh no, it's coming up. Yeah, okay. Do we want to talk about the Kotaku stuff?
We don't have to talk about it much here. Let's talk. We can save that for GameSpeak Decides if anyone still cares by then.
Yeah.
Probably won't.
I didn't find that super egregious saying that a game looks like shit, especially if it does kind of look like shit. I understand some people are going to have different like reactions to strong language like that, and of course, like the developers aren't going to like it. But we're in an awkward place now because of Twitter and stuff. We have like more direct communication with a lot of the people actually making the games and working on the games. And we want to be friendly with them. We want to be nice people. But ultimately, our job is not to be nice to your video games. Our job is to be honest about them. And sometimes it is mean. Now, the other Kotaku thing, the other one, I did think that was not a great
with a bad
story.
Take. But it's also, we're just criticizing it, right? Like, everyone's just criticizing that take. And like here, it's like...
that's the thing. Like, we can criticize that take. Like, just like Kotaku could criticize a mobile XCOM game, we can criticize their takes.
Right, exactly. That's kind of that's how I feel about it too.
A bad story.
Yeah. I'll just say that the game does look pretty bad, and I don't know. It does seem like people are focused on the word, but if you read that headline and you're like, I hate this. Like I hate this. Like this take, not this take, but like this tone.
The tone.
That's fine. You're absolutely not allowed to not like it. Go read other sites. You could stop following Kotaku. That's everyone's choice. They're allowed to make that choice. I think that's all fine. I think that there was some weird tone policing with this stuff, but if it's mostly just you saying, I'm gonna go read another website now instead, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all the time we'll give to the Kotaku thing on here. Maybe we'll talk about it more on GameSpeak.
If you guys by Friday, who knows if anyone's going to care about anything anymore.
To talk about it.
That's well said, Mike. Well said. From Charles Sims, I haven't been able to play any games for a year and a half because of an injury. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Charles. It is starting to get better. So what Switch games should I go with first? Real quick, Mike, think about that. Real quick, I don't know what the injury is, but if it's at all hand related or anything like that, be careful how you play. I guess you might not play on handheld, but if you do play handheld, maybe get some grips, maybe get something to ensure that you're not going to get some like repetitive stress injury or anything like that. Just think about the ergonomics and take care to do that stuff. There's a lot of products to improve the way that the holding a Switch feels. So keep that in mind, and reach out to me on Twitter if you're like wanting any like recommendations there, because I'll be able to help you a little bit.
I do think about this question a lot. Like, what are like the 10 games I would recommend to like a person who just got a Switch right now, right?
Sounds like a video.
Yeah,
just do that.
We might have to do that. I mean, the two super obvious ones that I would recommend to just about everybody are Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. Like, it's super obvious and boring, but everyone who has a Switch should have those two games.
And then number 3 is SteamWorld Dig 2.
Oh my God, no, Hollow Knight. But like I tell you what, like the other big surprise, like super great first party Nintendo game, besides from Smash Bros. I love Smash Bros. And if you like Smash Bros, get Smash Bros. Same with Mario Kart. If you like Mario Kart, get the Switch Mario Kart. But Luigi's Mansion 3 really punched out of its weight class for me. Like, that game was so much better than its predecessors or what I was really expecting for that. And it seems like one that I hear a lot of people love. I think Luigi's Mansion 3, even though like you think, what, Luigi's Mansion 3? I don't care about that. I think you'll be surprised how good that one is.
It's also like you get it now. You play through Zelda, and by the time you're ready to play through Luigi's Mansion 3, it's Halloween time, and it's like a really fun kind of like, not like, it's not scary obviously, but it's in that spooky fun atmosphere thing.
It's great in October.
Yes, it nails that stuff, and it's kind of fun like to play on the TV in front of other people around that time. So I highly recommend that. I think and then there's just a litany of indie games to go and get from there.
Hades, Celeste.
Yeah,
not really indie, but you should try the Ori games if you don't have an Xbox.
Into the Breach is one that I played a ton on Switch. Into the Breach is a fantastic.
Streets of Rage 4.
Yes, Streets of Rage 4. Right, exactly. Like, pretty much any indie game that like got a lot of praise in the last year and a half. Definitely check that out. But then
now,
yeah,
if your injury is like you don't want to play something very twitchy, then yeah, Animal Crossing would be a very good one, which is still pretty popular. Still gets
Stardew Valley. Thank you, Coldnap. Yes,
Stardew Valley. Yes, and Undertale. If you ever played Undertale somehow, playing that on Switch is very good.
Yep. Okay. Let's see here. Thank you for your question there, Charles. Let's see. Oh wait, let me go back to the stream elements. From Jared Helder, one of my favorite on Super Nintendo is Super Off-Road. I think so. We're gonna get into this topic here pretty soon. So should we come back to that, Mike, or do you want to?
Yeah, we can come back to that one.
Jared, I'll make sure we come back to you, and we'll talk about that in a moment and give you a chance.
If you guys want to send super chats about your favorite Super Nintendo games, we are talking about that after this. So if you want to join the conversation, let us know. The super chat.
From Wiener Beat Decides,
I love Wiener Beat Decides.
Yep, Wiener Beat's back. What was a good rent at least 3 times for you in the Super Nintendo era? Uniracers and Super Double Dragon were for him. Games that I rented a lot. You know what? It's actually my answer for the question, so I'm gonna hold off on that for a second.
Well,
Super Mario RPG is one I rented a lot as well.
Yeah, I did it for Final Fantasy VI because the RPGs used to actually be more expensive and they were hard to buy. So even though it was like kind of a bad one to rent because you're constantly starting the game over again, that was one way you can actually play those things if you didn't want to spend like $120, whatever it was, to buy a single game, which was very hard to explain to your parents. I think that's why like the first like 5 hours, like I would basically get to the opera every single time in Final Fantasy VI, which was amazing to me. I love that opera sequence, and I always had fun with that. But yeah, I never beat Final Fantasy VI until I played the Game Boy Advance version because we kept just renting that one instead.
I basically the same story with me in Super Mario RPG, where I'd like play through the first half many times, and then one of the last rentals I did with it, I got to like the Power Rangers clones or whatever it was. I got to them and got past them finally, and it was monumental. Let's see, from Jedi Moss 4, will Nintendo ever return to making power intense consoles, or did the flop of the GameCube and the success of the Wii scare them off for good? I don't know if it's scared off. I think they just see other opportunities elsewhere, and they see opportunities to make more profit by going with underpowered hardware. I don't think they're ever going to have something as powerful as the competition, but I think with NVIDIA, they might have some tech that is like impressive that you wouldn't expect to come from them. But we'll have to see like what that looks like if they ever get to, a Switch 2 or whatever.
You can never say never with Nintendo because again, it wasn't that long ago we were in that Wii era, and it's similar there in terms of the consoles not being as powerful as the competition, but things can change so much for them. It just takes one more flop for them to course correct, and maybe at some point the course correct is going to be much more powerful. And also in like 10 years, 20 years, like the cost difference of making a quote unquote really powerful system and like one that's slightly less powerful than it. What does that even look like anymore? Who knows?
See, that was Jedi Moss's 4 question. Mental Gear Gaming. Will we ever see a Star Fox on Switch?
I don't think so. I think Star Fox Zero has scared them from that franchise for at least a generation. That's going to be one of the few Switch games that does not get the Wii U port treatment, huh?
Yes, I think you're right.
Because I think they desperately want to know what to do with that series. They are not comfortable just releasing like a Star Fox 64 style game, which I think is how you would succeed with that. But they're not going to do that. So I remember they also made that weird Wii U like tower defense game that came with Star Fox Zero. And that was like weird. I don't think they know what to do with it. I think that because they tried to position Star Fox Zero as being like their big game for that year. And that kind of back. Remember like the E3 that year? It was like them in their puppet forms and all that stuff. And that was fun. Yeah, that was fun stuff. I like that game more than most people, but yes, people did not really go for that. So I don't think they know what to do with it. And I think they spent a decent amount of money on Star Fox Zero. They're pretty burned.
From Pozon Theory, I wanted to buy a PlayStation TV for the JRPGs, but the prices are crazy. Should I wait for prices to fall or bite the bullet? Are prices crazy for a PlayStation TV, like the Vita TV thing? Really?
Oh, wow.
I thought those things were like dirt cheap, but maybe if something happened with like emulation. Whoa, they're like $300, $200 now. Jeez, I have one just sitting in a drawer. I guess I should see why people care about this stuff so much. Maybe
I still just have my Vita, and it is great for JRPGs. I mean, I guess you could just get it. I mean, what are Vitas like these days? Because they play the same games, right?
Yeah.
Unless you really want it on a TV and not on a portable.
Yeah, and the thing is that PlayStation TV can't play some Vita games, although I am sure that has been all sort of fixed by now, in terms of people modding it or whatever. Archive.org. Yeah, that does it for the super chats, though, so far, Mike. Should we get into the topic? And if anyone has any more super chats, send them in, and we'll get them before the end of the show.
Yes, absolutely. But now it's topic time. So last week we talked about our favorite NES game. Jeff, what is your favorite Super Nintendo game?
Yeah, so, there's a lot of obvious ones, but I think this is the one that I actually might still have the most fun with anytime I go to play it, and I've played it so many times, and that is also the game I rented more than 3 times, and that is Kirby's Dream Course.
Interesting. Wow.
Love Kirby's Dream Course. That
was a big rent one for me too.
Yes,
you're right.
I rented it so many times, and that's the thing. Like, I rented it and like played through it and enjoyed it. And next time I get there and I try to look at other games, I'm like, but man, that Kirby's Dream Course, I'm just gonna get that again. And I never regretted it. I never regretted like spending the money in the weekend on that. And now that it's on Super Nintendo, online on the Switch or whatever, I play it still a lot to this day. And it's a golf game, I guess, for people who don't know. It's a golf game where you like control Kirby, but it uses the Kirby formula of when you run into a certain other enemy and like take them out, like you have to like take out the enemies on the course before one of them turns into the hole. Like the last one will turn into the hole that you can go into. But if you run into the enemy, you can like absorb their powers and use their powers to help you get into the hole. So like one of them's like has an umbrella, so you can run into them, and then the hole gets created from the next enemy, and they'll be down like one level, down like a cliff or something, and you can hit the umbrella power and slowly try to guide yourself and float into the hole, and it's just so satisfying. It's like one of the best golf games ever made, and a really good Kirby game too.
Man, that's a pretty good answer. Mine is more boring, and I actually thought we were going to have the same answer this week because mine's just Super Metroid.
Super Metroid's right there for me as well. I think it's number 2.
It's a game I played a million times. I just played it again like a week ago, and it was like a case where I'm going to start this up because I had just beaten Metroid on the NES for the first time. So it's like I'll play a little bit of Super Metroid for fun, and then I just spent the week playing through it again. That is just we talk about the atmosphere and all that stuff, but the gameplay still just feels so good. Like Samus controls very well, but also like in a unique way. Like there's something about like how you have like that one like jump that's not very maneuverable, but then like it doesn't have like a big like vertical aspect to it, but you can like control it pretty well. But then you have like that spinning thing where you can get like some distance with it, but it's really unwieldy and weird. I think some people call that floaty and they don't like it, but to me, like there's a science to that, and it makes it really interesting. And it's even like the way that there's that wall jump that the game almost doesn't expect you to get good at because it's difficult to use and you're not required to beat the game. But then like on your second or third playthrough, when you do get good with that, it opens up like these different paths and these different possibilities. Yeah, the pacing is just so good. Oh yeah, I love Super Metroid. I replayed that constantly. With the Kirby train, though, I loved Kirby Superstar. Man, that was a good system for Kirby games. Kirby Superstar is still my favorite Kirby game. It's still one a lot of people say was their favorite. Just that kind of fun, like, it was like 5 mini campaigns in one, and each of them had like a little difference. Like there's the one where instead of sucking up the powers, you just like went to like a hub world and picked them for that level or things like that. There's the one that was more narrative driven. The one was kind of like a Metroidvania sort of thing. And it was the first Kirby game that had the 2-player co-op. So I just loved playing that with my brother. That was always so much fun for us. But
I might try to play that with my kids when they get older, because that's something one I never actually played a lot of when it was out.
But we asked our podcast producers the same questions. Why don't we see some of their answers? And again, I know we had one super chat answering, but if you guys want to answer on there, go ahead. So Schaefer says, I strongly believe that Super Mario World is the best game of all time, and it's unlikely that another game will ever capture the magic, field, and weird sense of exploration in unlockable areas. Yeah. Everything about it looks great, sounds great. The level design seems like it's all about just having fun in weird ways. I could probably write an entire book about how good it is. It's literally a perfect video game. It's still my favorite 2D Mario game. Absolutely.
So this is actually probably my number 2, and a lot of time it probably is my like number 1 Super Nintendo game. I I just have so thoroughly beaten it, and like years ago, that when I go to play it now, it's not exactly the same. Because I'm just like, man, I conquered this thing. 'Cause, you know, you get the 96 stars or whatever after you beat all the levels, and I've done that multiple times now. And the first time I played it, it was great. It was fantastic to go through. It was awesome. But then like later, I'm like, oh wait, I missed a ton of levels. Like there is stuff to unlock here. There's multiple pathways through this overworld.
Like multiple exits. The whole Star World concept was so cool.
When I found the Star World, I'm like, oh my god, like what is, like, how do I get to these other stages in Star World? Like I think one of the ways you get in, like it's hard to unlock the other levels. So you have to like try to like go back and figure out other ways to get in. And that's when I'm like, okay, there's all these other pathways. You could go from like the ghost house or whatever and get to the first Star World level and then just beat all these Star World levels and like skip to the end. Like playing through that stuff and seeing like each of like the cool names and like seeing how hard they were, it was just so satisfying to beat.
Tubular,
yes, exactly. I really adore Super Mario World. I'm probably overdue for another playthrough.
Even just like that weird ghost level with like the one secret exit that's just a place where you can like stock up on power-ups, like, like that was so great. It felt so good unlocking that and going back there and like I need to have get my Yoshi, get my cape, get my firepower in reserve in case I need that. Yeah, still by far the best 2D Mario game. Also by far the best overworld any of those games has. I don't know why. Like
it might have the best overworld of any game. Yeah,
you're right. Very good. Arjun says Super Metroid will probably be my favorite overall. Just an amazing experience front to back. All the elements like gameplay, art, music, etc. are really great on their own and come together to form an overall package that seems flawless to me. Yep, couldn't agree more. Super Metroid is fantastic. Jake Bogdanoff says Super Mario Kart. I'm a Koopa Troopa main, so I gotta represent when they let me. Yeah. I do like the original Super Mario Kart a good bit, too, especially those battle levels. Those were fun.
Yeah, I played a ton of Super Mario Kart, but I feel like they always say, "Oh, your first Mario Kart's your favorite," and that was never the case with me. Because I'm like, "Oh, I like Mario 64, Mario Kart 64 even better and stuff." So yeah, but it's still a great game.
I'm unsurprisingly a Double Dash fan when it comes to Mario Kart. Benji Bob says Donkey Kong Country. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Benji, Donkey Kong Country 2 was also on the SNES. Yeah, it might be better and more consistent platformer and expands on DKC1 in meaningful ways, but every single song on Donkey Kong Country is a banger. It has a 1.0 batting average. It doesn't miss. Bonus Room Blitz might be the best 30-second video game song of all time, and Mike needs to learn the main riff on the flute. I'll get on that. So Donkey Kong Country 1 all day. Having finally played both of them relatively recently, all the way through, I think I am on the Donkey Kong Country 2 camp, but I respect the Donkey Kong Country 1 bandwagon. You're a Donkey Kong Country 1 boy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it when it came out, and I never played 2 or 3 at the time. I'm going to start 2 really for real here pretty soon. But I liked Donkey Kong as a character, and when he was in the other games, I never really was like excited to play them, especially with the N64 coming out and stuff. But I do love Donkey Kong Country a lot.
Knoble says Terranigma. It was my first JRPG, and it's just a perfect game. I can't explain why, but the mix of healing the nature and those badass soundtracks gets me every time. So I think I mentioned Terranigma earlier because this was a game that came out in Japan and Europe that we didn't get. It's an action RPG, which actually thinks that Knoble might be a European. But yes, it's a very good game, one that you should try.
You are correct.
Giggy, I'll give some love to one of my favorite shmups of all time, UN Squadron, a great 2D side-scrolling shooter that brings in a ton of variety when it was released in 1991. Most notably, the stage select battle map, where as time passes, it affects the stage setting and even forces you to defend your home base if an enemy reaches it. If you like classic shmups that have a challenge, gives a variety in playstyles, and comes with great artwork, I definitely recommend seeking out UN Squadron. This is one I never played, but I've been hearing a lot more about, because generally people say Genesis has the better shmups. It has, like, the Thunder Force games and so on. But apparently UN Squadron is the best of the SNES shmup library.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try it. I've never played it.
Yeah. Keywork says Super Street Fighter 2. I played a ton with friends. Probably the only fighting game I have ever felt competitive just due to experience playing with so many people.
Yeah.
It was an absolute blast and was a big part of my childhood. If you want some underrated and probably not picked stuff to discuss, Shadowrun and ActRaiser are some good ones to dig up. Those games are brought up a lot, I see, especially ActRaiser, and I need to play ActRaiser 1 because it's a mix of a action side scroller with city building elements in between. So it just seems really interesting there. Street Fighter 2, you know what? Back during that era, I was actually much more of a Mortal Kombat guy, just because I was a kid and like I thought the blood was cool. That was
Yeah,
basically it.
me and my brother played a lot of Super Street Fighter 2. We had manila folders with like breakdowns of each of the characters, like their moveset, but also like their lore and stuff. With like, probably we must have just got a printer or something, because I was printing the stuff off the internet and like creating my own strategy guides or whatever. But it was also like a lore guide. It was fantastic. I remember like the one for Blanca and stuff. Just read them over and over and over. I loved Street Fighter when it first came out. And I also, it's the one time I felt competitive in fighting games as well. But that didn't last very long.
I didn't really get into the Capcom fighters until Marvel vs. Capcom on the Dreamcast was when I really sort of fell in love with that style. Yeah. Wildfire just says Super Metroid. I don't have to explain why. No, you do not. Super Metroid seems to be the most popular pick here, so I am correct. Yummy Seth, since Mike seems to choose Mega Man X, I did not, but we can talk about that. Easy on the greatest games of all time. I will take Earthbound to the ring. Earthbound is a truly unique JRPG that had more sequels earned than the one on Game Boy Advance. I played it the first time on Wii U since the game didn't release in Europe, and after all this time, I still have fallen in love with the game. Also, with Earthbound, there is no Undertale. Come on, give us more Earthbound, Nintendo. This is maybe the biggest one on my Nintendo pile of shame, because I have started Earthbound probably 8 times. And it's not like I dislike it. I never fall in love with it immediately, which is maybe a problem. But I like it enough that I should beat it, and I just have not gotten there. And I started so many times that I always dread starting it again. But at some point, I'm going to really need to devote some time to playing through Earthbound.
Yeah, it's one that I've enjoyed as I started it, but I've fallen off it. But mostly just like I wanted to devote like a lot of time to it, and it was the last time I played it and really started getting into it was when I first had kids, and so I just didn't have time. But yeah, it's one that I regret missing out on as well.
He is right though. Mega Man X is actually probably my number 2. Mega Man X is the best Mega Man game after Mega Man 3 for me. But then like Mega Man 2 sort of completing the holy trinity of the best Mega Mans, with like Mega Man 9 pretty not too far behind. Mega Man X though. So
I need to really try Mega Man X, because it's one that well, last time I tried it, it was after I think you and I think it must have been on an Exploding Barrel. It must have been like you guys talking about like some of your favorite games of all time. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try it, and I didn't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why it's so much like such a great Super Nintendo game. It just felt like more Mega Man. But maybe
you sound awful. I'm gonna kill you.
I know. I'm just missing it. Nick Turbo has overtaken me. He says Mega Man's never good, and I'm like, I don't think that.
You guys are awful. Oh my god, you guys make me so. No, Mega Man X it's still probably it's the best action platformer on that system, with maybe Castlevania 4 also being a contender there, but. The movement, it just feels so good. Like, this is the first Mega Man game where you have like that dashing and that wall jumping, and that just feels fantastic. Also, such a good soundtrack. Mogos87 says, ActRaiser. Hey, it's ActRaiser again. Such an underrated gem. It was able to masterfully pair platforming and city building. The soundtrack also slaps. I think ActRaiser is that one that was an underrated gem for a very long time.
Right, and now it's appropriately rated because there's so many people come back and say they love it. Yeah.
Like, it's one that I never played as a kid. I didn't really know much about it, but I think I remember always seeing it at the stores and being like, what's that? I don't know. And skipping over it, but it's one that I definitely need to play, and I think I have it on my modded SNES Classic. Is it on the Switch? I don't even know if it's on the Switch library. It should be if it's not.
I think it is.
Might be, so maybe I'll just play it there so Nintendo doesn't have another strike against us. Sir Drew says, the SNES was my first console as a hand-me-down from my older brother. As a result, I completely skipped out on the NES and Nintendo 64, and so my emotional touchstone for Mario is still Super Mario World. That would be my pick for favorite SNES game. Everything about that game just brings me joy. It still to this day puts a smile on my face. From sound effects to world names to the way simply being on Yoshi changes the music, it's all too good. How do you make Mario cool to a 5-year-old whose favorite thing in the world is Jurassic Park? Make it Mario, but dinosaurs also. Such an inspired decision. So more love there for Mario World. Let's get to some of these super chat ones.
Yeah, let's see. So that one from let's see here, Jared Helder. He did say one of my favorites on SNES is Super Off-Road, which was when I played a few times. I think I played that in the arcade mostly, and I'm like, oh, this is like RC Pro-Am. And
see, I could never play those like top-down isometric.
Yeah.
Well, I could never get into them.
I loved RC Pro-Am, and I'm like, but RC Pro-Am is, I think I like the idea a little bit better than the way it feels. I bet Super Off-Road is the game I really wish I had been playing this entire time. So I'm actually I'm going to go try to play that game very soon, and report back because
I think
I'm looking at like video of it. I'm like, yeah, that does look like a lot of fun to me.
the other racing game on Super Nintendo, aside from like F-Zero, Mario Kart, for me is Top Gun. Mostly just because the soundtrack's good, but it also plays very
Top
well.
Gear.
Top Gear, not Top Gun. Top Gear. Excuse me.
Yeah, Top Gear was a surprisingly good game. Yeah, there was a lot of it. I remember I played Daytona Thunder or whatever it is, the one based on the Tom Cruise movie. That one wasn't so good, but I'm like, Top Gear's probably gonna be crappy like that. And I tried. I'm like, oh no, this is actually very solid. So yeah. Do we have any others from the super chats? Let me look. See.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. Okay, so from Mattathias, I want Mike to say something about Super Nintendo Aladdin.
Never even played it because why bother? It doesn't look as good as the Genesis one. Okay, I know I probably should. Some people think it's actually better than the Genesis ones. I don't know if I'll ever believe that, but it's made by Capcom, so I'm sure it's good. It looks so much more just like, yes, this is obviously what the Super Nintendo 16-bit game for Aladdin would be, whereas like the Genesis one has those like actual like animated cells converted into pixels, and it looks super good. So what I'll say about it is that I should play it, and I will try to.
Let's see. Ryan said, in case no one says it, Earthbound is a masterpiece. We got a couple people saying it, but yeah, it's nice to have that reiterated. People love Earthbound. I think the writing still holds up from when I played of it. It's like still very funny.
It definitely is unique, and I think that holds up still very, very much so.
Jared Helder comes in again, says, any Switch games as timeless as Super Metroid?
Well, we'll need some time to figure that out. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not sure if any will end up being quite as timeless as Super Metroid. Maybe Breath of the Wild 1. I don't know. Maybe.
Let's see. And then Stephen Lamb says Uniracers is the best racing game on Super Nintendo. What do you think about Uniracers, Mike?
I actually liked Uniracers a lot. We did have Uniracers. It was a lot of fun.
Yes. It was a colorful game. It's like a side-scrolling racing game. And I love I think I read an interview with the developer once, right when it was coming out in a magazine. And he's like, you got to do tricks because you're faster in the air than when you are on the ground. And like the reason for that is because planes are faster than cars. And even then I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the plane's faster because its engine's faster. Like that, like if you take the wheel off the ground, you're not getting any propulsion. But whatever, it feels really good to do that. To just like constantly be doing tricks to try to get yourself to go faster and faster and faster. And it had a good sense of speed. I remember really liking that game. It was no Stunt Race FX, but what was?
So I think that does it for the super chats and the answers. There's a couple games that are pretty notable in their absence here, not brought up at all. One is Link to the Past, which is still one of my favorite Zelda games.
I think what's happened is like a lot of people like don't want to go with the very super obvious stuff, but a lot of it is also just there are a lot of great games on the Super Nintendo. So when you ask an audience like what their favorite ones are, you're gonna get a lot of different answers. Link to the Past is also timeless. Like it's also going to be a game that you could play at any point in the history of the world, and it will still be fun. So, yeah.
Okay, it just came in. Thank you. I was just about to say I was upset that Yoshi's Island wasn't mentioned, and we just got a super chat from
Post in Theory. He says Yoshi's Island, love the level of variety, or love the level variety, soundtrack, collection elements, or collectathon elements, and bonus levels. For a Super Nintendo RPG, I don't hear often Illusion of Gaia. I
almost brought up Illusion of Gaia, which is it's by the Terranigma people, I believe, so it's also an action RPG.
Yoshi's Island is also just fantastic. It is just it's a game that I couldn't believe how good it was at the time. The collectathon stuff, actually, it's like the best collectathon style game where you're supposed to get a bunch of stuff because they make it about each level's got 100 things in it, 100 points worth of things in it, and you just got to make sure you finish it with all that stuff. And if you do that, you unlock a bonus level at the end of the worlds. And it's just a really solid platformer. Another one
super
that
good.
Really
I think I might like. They're different
go back
enough. It's hard to say, but I might like it more than Mario World. It's hard to say sometimes.
I go back and forth.
It's also a very pretty Super Nintendo game. Like a lot of Super Nintendo games are just like, yes, this is a 16-bit graphics. There's an art style, but it's not super omnipresent. Like Yoshi's Island has an art style. It's incredible. That's good stuff. So, all right, I think that's going to do it for the Super Nintendo talk here. I saw somebody ask, are we doing Nintendo 64 or Game Boy next week? I think maybe we'll do Nintendo 64. I think we'll just go through all the major consoles and then we'll go back and do the portables. Yeah. How does that sound to you, Jeff?
That sounds great. And I'm liking this. This is great stuff. I think eventually maybe we could do like top 10 games for each platforms or something like that, but we could do that like months from now when we need to come back to these topics. But right now I'm really enjoying this format. So yeah, let's do a Nintendo 64 next week.
Yeah, awesome. So, Jeff, have you started Skyward Sword on the Switch yet?
I have, but I've started it, and I really was just kind of like messing around with it to see how I felt about the controls, because I want to beat Metroid Fusion before I like throw myself into it for real, and I'm almost done with Metroid Fusion. But I think I'm happy with the way it feels. Like, okay, so the big issue with the like bringing this thing to a controller and giving it like gamepad controls was what do you do about controlling the sword? And I think they figured that out pretty quickly. It works a lot like that Metal Gear Rising or whatever it was, where you just like, Revengeance. Thank you. The right stick just is like the direction you point it is how you're going to swing the sword, and that works fine. But then that means you don't have the right stick for camera unless you hold down the L button, and I'm just, it's taking me time to get used to that. I'm glad I have the option. I think most of the time I'll probably just try to think, okay, I'm just going to put the camera behind me like I did when I played this on the Wii, because of course the Wii also didn't have a right stick at all, so you never had that option. But
right, you use the Z targeting a lot to really center the camera. Yes,
Z targeting, you're right, is what I'll use more than anything else. But it works, and I'm happy with the way it feels, and I think I'm going to enjoy this as much as I did the first time. I liked the game originally. I don't think this is going to be some revelation for me about Skyward Sword, but I'm happy to see that they've made some of those changes. It does feel like it's getting off to a bit of a faster start than it did originally, and I guess I haven't really had too much interaction with Fee yet, so I'll have to see how that goes. But overall, I'm happy that they put this on Switch. I'm going to play through it, and it feels good enough so far.
Yeah, I just started it too, and about the camera, I agree. It takes a little getting used to, and it's not a perfect solution, but it might be as good a solution as they can do, right? Unless you wanted to make like the sword swinging the thing you had to hold down the L button for, and I don't know how great that would be either. But and maybe I haven't tried it, but maybe the real solution is just playing with the actual Joy-Cons on your TV.
I'm not gonna do that though. Yeah,
I'm probably not either, because I actually do like the way the sword movement works just fine with the analog stick. I've always liked Skyward Sword, so I'm actually like, and I feel like no one else is really talking about it, but I'm actually just really impressed that the game is in HD and runs at 60 frames per second.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it looks good.
Game looks very good.
Yeah, it's being done a lot of favors with the HD and the 60 frames per second. Like the textures maybe are still a little bit crummy a little bit, but overall when I'm like just standing back and like looking at the image, it looks beautiful in most instances. I think it's a great game to get the HD treatment. If you had like just graphically and aesthetically, if you had released this as like a new game on a Switch, I don't think anybody would have raised any eyebrows. I think would have been like, oh yes, this looks like a modern Zelda game. So I'm actually, and I actually can't play too much of it right now because I'm reviewing some other games, but I wanted to start it just so I could talk about it here. But I'm like, man, I want to play more. I liked Skyward Sword the first time. It does feel a little bit like a faster start. Just being able to like press the B button and skip through the dialogue text. Not like I'm skipping it, but I can read much faster than the game wants to scroll it for me. So that helps a lot. And gosh, I'm just excited to get through the first dungeon, because I remember even the first dungeon was fantastic in this game. So I'm excited to play more of it. Did you play any other Nintendo games this week, Jeff? Still just kind of playing through Metroid Fusion, like I said. I don't remember if I got to this point last week or not, but I was very wrong about this game. I know you were. Well, you're very wrong about a lot of things. A lot of stuff, and this is one of them. We'll add it to the list. But I think the big problem was at the time. I was coming off of loving Super Metroid, and then I go to play Metroid Fusion after I played Prime, and Prime was such like an amazing experience. Prime is fantastic in every way. It was so good. And then I go play Fusion, and Fusion's like, we're going to do Super Metroid, but it's going to feel a little bit different. And we are going to talk to you more with like more cutscenes, and we are going to have more of a story, and we're going to have it be more hand-holdy, and we're going to sort of tell you where to go next. And we're going to break up the space station into very distinct places that like you just kind of go to this hub. It's a hub and spoke instead of like a big open world. And I was like, oh, are they changing Metroid? And so I kind of had like in my head, I'm like, okay, this is different, and I don't know if I like it quite as much as Super Metroid, but this is going to be the future of Metroid because this is the next Metroid game. And now that I've had decades since then, and we can kind of see the trajectory of Metroid, and we can see how Metroidvania as a genre has expanded and like is a bunch of different things, and that's okay. It is much easier to just assess Metroid Fusion based on its own merits. And when I'm just playing it, it is fantastic. It is so good. It's so much fun. All the pacing's still really good. You're still unlocking stuff at a nice clip. The boss fights are big and like animated, and they look really great with those Game Boy Advance graphics. It's just a really solid game that I'm really loving right now.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I don't. There's nothing else I can talk about right now. I think next week I'll be able to talk about these games I've been reviewing, maybe. So that is something to look forward to. All right, Jeff, we ready to get out of here?
We are. I think let's. Can you? Yeah. No, you can't hear the music because it's broken. So of course another edit point. Great.
Well, while you start worrying about that, I will say next week we are going to be doing Nintendo 64 games. So you can all start thinking about what your favorite Nintendo 64 game is on that one. I think I might have another boring answer for next week, but we will see. We got another super chat in real quick. Stephen Lamb said Dead Space 1 felt like scary Metroid Fusion. That is kind of true. That comparison makes a lot of sense to me. Hey, I hear music, Jeff.
Okay, you do?
Yes.
Where's it coming from? Oh, you hear it. I don't think they hear it. Hang on, let me try.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, this is an appropriate end for this week's show because it was a mess.
It was a mess. It was a mess. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right.
Are they hearing it now? All right, that's great. Well, thanks so much for listening and for joining us this week, everybody. You can find more of us on the Jeff Grubb's Game Mess channel, and that's where we do this live every Tuesday. If you're listening to the podcast version, join us. We have a lot of fun with chat. Be sure to check out Games Beat the Sides, our more general gaming show, and we do that on Fridays at the same channel. You can also check out me on 90s Disney, my 90s Disney podcast at 90sdisney.com. Jeff.
Join the Discord, discord.gg/GameMess. I am still doing a giveaway. This is the last warning about it though. Rate us wherever you listen to the show. Send that to me on Twitter or on Discord. And if you do it on Twitter, do hashtag Nintendogs, please. It helps me find it. We've got a lot of entries, so it's gonna help me make sure I keep track of everybody. But I'll look and see the reviews, and I'll see if I can find them, and I'll make sure I get everybody in there. And then, yeah, just follow me on Twitter, at Jeff Grubb. Mike said the other shows and stuff. I got a How Games Make Money coming out soon. But, yeah, thanks, everybody, for listening.
Be good, dogs. Till next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.